the Hawai'i Pacific University campus at Aloha Tower Marketplace, here's your host, Hawai'i Pacific University's Vice President and Chief Marketing Communications Officer, Jeffrey Rich.
Aloha, Sharks Nation! We are back for another edition of Sharks Weekly here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. It is Thursday morning, and we are live from beautiful downtown Honolulu here on the campus of Hawai'i Pacific University. As the opening announcer said, I'm your host, Jeff Rich, and we are talking soccer today. So we've got an exciting show. We've got the men's and women's programs represented here today with coaches and a couple of student athletes. Representing the men's team, we have head coach Chris Fisher and newly anointed assistant coach Joshua Graham, hailing from Manchester, UK. And as I understand it, the former captain of the Cal Poly soccer team. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And on the women's side, we have Adria Borras. Audrey, good to be with you this morning. And our student athletes representing the men's team, we have Cade Anderson. And on the women's side, we have Mehana Ortiz. So we have a full house this morning, guys. Everybody, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you with us this morning, and we're excited to talk a little bit of soccer. So let's jump right into it. So, as we looked at the past season, it was a tough season for both teams, maybe a rebuilding year. But let's start with the men's side. Chris, you guys were 4-11-3 overall, and 2-7-1 in the Pac West. When you look back at the season, how do you portray it? Was it, did you have higher expectations, or did you see this as a rebuilding year?
We definitely had higher expectations. I think going into it and leading up to our first games, I thought we were prepared to have a better record. Kind of hurt when you just said that, just to even listen to that. We just conceded too many goals and couldn't score enough, and that's kind of the nature of soccer. We talk about it a lot. We actually played decent soccer in between the goals. And so that's what we're looking to build off of.
What do you think? Was it just was just something missing this year, or what?
Missing a goal scorer.
Goal scorer,
I think, for sure.
And I think you were talking earlier. Rules change.
That was Adria, since they tied all those games there. They got away with. They eliminated overtime for regular season games.
Okay.
And so instead of playing an additional 20 minutes after the 90, it just ends.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what was the rationale for that change? Just trying to shorten the games? Or?
I think it was player safety.
Okay.
We play a lot of games in a short amount of time, and so that extra 20 minutes is pretty taxing.
Yeah.
I think.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, let's come back. Let's just jump in with the women's side as well. And Audrey, you guys had also a rebuilding season. 1-9-5 overall, 1-5-4 in the Pac West. You had a fair amount of ties, as you said.
Yeah, especially if you look at the Pac West, it's like you have almost the same ties and losses. So it's like, and there's games that we tied that we should have lost, and games that we tied that we should have won.
Yep.
Other ones that, it's just one of those years that could go either way. And it affected, especially I think even more in the women's game, these 90 minutes that goes through, that's it. It just makes the game tougher in the last minutes, and it stays on a lot of ties. Yeah. And then it's gone. Which before with the overtime, I think it made it a little fun because it's golden goal. So whoever scores first is gone. And looking at the statistics, not many overtimes would go to 20 minutes.
Yeah. Most
of the times would be done in 5 minutes.
So in the women's game, there are no shootouts. There were no shots at the end.
Both sports, when the game ends on a tie, and that's it.
Wow. Well, I know that's one of the American sports fans always complaints about soccer. Too many ties, right? So this probably doesn't help. But I imagine from a player safety standpoint, and from your guys' point of view, Cade and Mehana, what do you guys think about the lack of more of an opportunity to have a finality of the outcome?
I can speak on this one. I hate ties. From a young age, I've always hated ties. It feels like a loss. And when you're playing, you're not like really thinking about, I'm tired. It's like you just want to go out there and win the game.
Yeah.
And so when you tie, it just feels so anticlimactic, and you just want another 20 minutes to play. We run all summer. We run all preseason to be fit for those games. So I'm not really thinking, I'm like, I'm super excited. My safety is in check right now. I can't play 10 more minutes, It's like, because I'm going to go out and practice tomorrow. So I hate ties. I don't like that rule. Sorry, Pac West. But
sorry, as a coach, I said I just explained why they eliminated overtime. I didn't say I was a fan of it.
So not a lot of fond feelings here about the rule change. Mehana, as a student athlete, did you find yourself tired at the end of the game, or did you feel like we can go another 20 minutes and have an outcome here?
I think a lot of the games, it was like, no, we were there. We could have scored if we had like 5 or 10 more minutes, and we could have won some of the games that we tied. We should have won, but the rule changed, so.
Yeah. Well, how does that change, from the coaching side? How does that change, your strategy, if anything? Do you approach a game differently, a little more aggressively, knowing that you got to get some goals in the net there early and not end in a tie?
Yeah, you have that time limit that actually makes you, be more ready and be on your toe, and sometimes feel more in a rush, especially if you're losing. Like before, you always had time to tie until the last second, and then go to overtime and then win later.
So that was a strategy in itself.
Not a strategy, but you still had that. Same as when you were winning. You always had that room of like, even when we make a mistake and we get caught in the last minute, we still have the overtime to win again. Now that ends. So in the last 10 minutes, it becomes very close for both teams. The one that is winning, the one that is losing. Or if they're tying, they're both so afraid to win or to lose that ends on a tie.
Yeah, so it perpetuates the tie.
So it's like, it just makes the last 15 minutes of the game a little different of what these kids are used to.
Well, sports have their nuances, right? I mean, basketball becomes a free throw shooting contest in the last few minutes of a game. No matter how big the lead is with one team has, you always have a shot to win it if you're playing a team that doesn't put the ball in the net from the free throw line. Joshua, you're new here, so first of all, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it.
First of all, tell us a little bit about your journey to HPU. And I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, first my thoughts on this is kind of a little different than everyone else's here. I believe as a coach, especially if you're playing away at a tough team, I think you'll take the tie. And you'll be happy when you see the 90th minute, especially if you're going against a team who might be the stronger opponent, and you'd be happy not to go the extra 20 minutes. And you'd be happy to take the tie and gather yourselves and recover and then focus on the next game. It sounds a little pessimistic and negative, but at the same time, I'd rather take 1 point rather than 0 points at the same time. And then also, I think my journey from here, I've been here a couple of weeks now. I've been able to be around the boys, but I was only officially hired on Monday, so I've only been working from Monday. But before my time here, I was coaching full-time in California. I was living in San Luis Obispo, where Cal Poly is, I've been there for 5 years playing and coaching. I played at Cal Poly from 2019 to 21. I was a junior when I transferred in. Before that, I was at junior college, St. Louis Community College in Missouri, which was a great experience. We had a very strong team, top 5 both years. Very fortunate to get All-American there, so that was very, very a great honor. But my time at Cal Poly, I know you mentioned it before, was incredible. Just to learn and grow under such a mentor and a father figure like Steve Sampson, and to learn the game, and then also when I moved into the coaching gig and to learn under him was just fantastic. And it's really kind of given me a great platform and a great knowledge as now I hope to bring to HPU and this program here. And I believe the changes that need to happen and where the direction we're trying to go in is I can lead from the front with that. And what's amazing is Coach Fisher is going to give me such freedom, and he already has this week. And we've already talked about culture changes and tactical changes and all the nitty gritty details. And the boys seem like they like me and they're responding really well. I don't know if they like the running, but they respect it, and it's going really well. It's been an amazing first week, so I'm super grateful.
What got you guys together? How did HPU get on your radar? Had you been aware of the university in the past?
No, I'd not been aware of HPU in the past. So this past season, in the winter, I coached high school. I was the varsity high school head coach of San Luis Obispo, and I was very fortunate that we had a very successful season, won conference for the first time in 4 years, which was great. And then after the season, I was kind of like, okay, I've done high school. I'm ready for the next step in my career. I really want to get into the college game. And I was, with the help of Steve Sampson, I was trying to connect with D1 coaches. But unfortunately, they were all like, you need more college experience. I'd coached at Cal Poly, but as a director of operations role. It's very different, a little bit more administrative. And then an alumni of Cal Poly, who's a friend of mine, who I coached his son, Jeff Ootman, he was like, "Oh, I got a buddy of mine who's the HPU head coach." I was like, "Oh, can you connect us?" He's like, "Oh, you'd be interested?" I was like, "Dude, it's coaching soccer in Hawaii. I think anyone would be interested, right?"
Exactly.
And connected us with coach, and the rest is history.
Had you been to Hawaii before you came out here?
So I'd been one time before, last year on a spring break with a few of my friends, and my girlfriend family has a place in the North Shore.
Okay.
So we came for a week, and I was in awe of the place.
Yeah. What's not to like, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wow. Well, we're certainly glad that you guys made the connection and you've come out here and joined us, Joshua. We are going to take a quick commercial break. We are talking HPU soccer here with the men's and women's teams on this beautiful Thursday morning. I'm your host, Jeff Rich. You're listening to Sharks Weekly, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we are back talking HPU soccer here with the men's and women's teams. Let's come back to the conversation. Audrey, we were talking during the break, and Chris, you guys have both been here over a decade. So we've got some longevity with the program. But I want to start, Audrey, your journey to HPU. So you've been here quite a while now, but give our listeners maybe a little sense of your history and background.
Yeah, I'm from Spain originally, and then I grew up there. I went to college there. I played there, and then eventually my best friend went to the U.S., and then we found out that in the U.S. you could go and play soccer and get a scholarship and all that. I'm like, oh, let's just go do this again. So we just went again to college and then got a degree. We ended up in Missouri.
So you went to the University of Missouri?
No, I was an NAIA school, Missouri Valley College.
Okay.
So I was there for a couple of years, got an undergrad. And then I stayed coaching in the main, and I was looking for a graduate assistant position where you can, like Joshua, start your journey as a college coach by getting your master's. And that's how I ended up at HPU.
Okay. So you were a student here
I was
first.
a student at HPU. I did my MBA here. I was a graduate assistant for the women's soccer team. Then I became the assistant coach for the women's soccer team. Then eventually I became the assistant coach also for the men's team. And eventually before COVID came, I became the head coach of the women.
Nice.
So I've been wearing a different hats all the time.
Have you found the MBA useful in your professional pursuits, organizational thinking?
Yeah. I think it's, especially certain classes were very real life touch things. So you're like, okay, when I go to the real world, that's what's going to happen. And I've been involved with the youth. I kind of had my own little goalkeeper academy and all that. So it kind of all the MBA behind it really helps
with anything. If you think about organizational strategies
or all the management that we have to do as coaches here, and all the budgeting, all the this, all the that. It's just really makes it very simple.
Well, Chris, I imagine that's probably a part of the coaching that maybe a lot of coaches don't like is the administrative side, and I imagine everyone wants to get out there, on the soccer field and coach and some tips and techniques. But tell us about your journey. You've been here, I think you said 14 years now? I
think I'm 15
Is it
years.
15?
I was so my journey to Hawaii, I went to the same school as Joshua was at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
And then I tried my luck of playing soccer for a few years after and was broke for a while, but it was kind of my passion. And I ended up, there was a team called the Hawaii Tsunami here in Hawaii that played at Aloha Stadium.
Was that a missile team back in the day?
It was USISL, I think it was called back in the day. And so we would travel, mostly West Coast teams. And I fell in love with Hawaii at that point. And then I was actually a construction management major at Cal Poly, which doesn't really correlate with kind of the same with the MBA, I guess. But make a long story short, I got a job back here in Hawaii. My friend from the Tsunami team was the HPU coach. He wanted me to help him. I started helping out, and then I just fell in love with soccer again. And 15 plus years later, here I am.
Wow! And where did you grow up?
San Francisco Bay Area.
San Francisco, okay. Yeah. And before you came out to Hawaii, I mean, had you been out here a lot and had aspirations?
I'd been to Maui
here?
once, and then the coach of the team here at Tsunami, I knew him through a mutual friend, and I just jumped at the chance and
Got it. Never look back, and here you are.
Never look back. Yeah.
Well, as studying construction management, I don't know if you knew, and for our listeners out there, HPU is about to launch a master's in construction management. Have faculty come your way yet?
No, I was discussing that. Though. We were talking about, because one of my classmates, his first job was to the Aloha Tower Marketplace when this was being built, and this was his first job out of college at Cal Poly.
Wow,
so
very cool. And this, back in when this was first built, was it purely a customs
I'm not
facility?
Sure.
I'm not sure either.
One of the professors I was talking about said the actual Aloha Tower. I'm not that old. Jeez.
Oh, boy. Well, I know we're in the process of building new display cases in the tower to kind of tell the story of this area of Honolulu. So that's something the university is working on. But we are certainly glad that we have attracted the coaching talent and the player talent that we've got here. So let's come back to the season. So when you go through a season like this, is a question for all the coaches. What are the strategies that you implement as you go through a season where you're having, maybe it's a bit more of a grind, you're not having the outcomes that you want? How do you keep the energy there? How do you keep the players focused, to keep them positive, when you're having more difficult times out on the field? You want to kick us off, Chris?
I mean, it's just one game at a time, I think. I think this past year we were, I believe we were positive, go every game going into it, and I think the mindset as you don't get the results that you want, I think that starts to set in a little bit more as the season goes on. But I mean, you have no choice but to try to win each game.
Yeah,
you can. I don't think that we're resigned to the fact that we're not going to get a result. We just keep plugging away.
Yeah. And Audrey, did you feel the team?
I feel that the older we get, the more perspective we can give it to them. So when you lose, being older actually helps you to give them perspective. Like, yeah, I know this happened, but it's okay. Tomorrow is a new day. It's going to be the same. And it's like, and you've seen the experience of many people. I was watching with my wife a while ago the Beckham documentary. When Beckham was in Galaxy, they lost 24 games in a row. That's a very long time. Or you see NBA teams that they lose 17 games in a row, and they're professionals.
Yeah.
It's like that's perspective that you can just give to them. Like, look, this happens everywhere, all the time, and to people that make millions of dollars. So just take one day at a time and just go to the next one, and it's going to be okay. So I think the older, having more information gives you more perspective. Yeah. And sometimes young people, they don't have all the information, and they're emotional, and they want to do this now. So I think that our job is to kind of maybe help them to calm down and give that deeper look.
That longevity of perspective that you gain over your life experiences, I think, is what you're talking about. And it's critical in anything in life. I know I have 4 kids, and I know, when my kids call me up sometimes and, somebody broke up, with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and, they're crushed at the moment, and you want to embrace that moment and help them work through that pain. But you also want to convey that, in the grand scheme of your life, this is something that you will not even think back about down the road, and I know it doesn't help at that moment, but it's absolutely true. Things that seem earth-shattering at the moment, the loss of a game that was important, the loss of a friendship, are things that, you can mourn that a little bit, and it's okay. That's part of, being human and accepting your feelings, but also putting it in perspective, as I think you're saying, is kind of the key to moving on, organizing your thoughts, and getting refocused. And I think that sounds like the challenge at hand. You joined us late, Joshua. So did you feel when you stepped in, that the chemistry and the team was just there? It's just a matter of pulling it together, and a couple of maybe new players that are coming in next year might really help really bring the program to where you guys want it to be.
Yeah, I think with and the new recruiting class we're trying to bring in will be a strong addition. But I don't just think it's just simply recruiting. I believe that the standards that need to be set and need to be raised and needs to be changed, and we've had a discussion with the players, and they all agree, and they know they've been slacking, and just even little things like wearing the right socks at practice, and I push on these boys the details all the time, and because when we start to let those things slip, it carries across all throughout the culture, right? How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So I believe trying to change those little things constantly and trying to keep those standards maintained is very important. Just going back to your question about how do we deal with losses and wins, and I think that's why it's so important that we have a leadership group and we have this constant relationship with the players, and that we have a senior leadership that we can communicate with and get a feel for how the players are really feeling. It's not just the coach making the decisions, that it's more like a partnership. Of course, there's some times where there's like authoritative decision and it's superiority, and what we say goes, but a lot of the time we got to work together and we got to cooperate and we got to try and make things work that's the best for the whole team.
Yeah. Cade and Mehana, Hawaii is a beautiful place to live, and there's a lot to do. And I know sometimes, it's hard not to get distracted living here, especially if you've got, hobbies and recreation activities, surfing, what have you. From the player's point of view, did you feel that the focus was maintained, or are there things you guys can point to that, as team leaders, that, are things that can be worked on for next year?
I think a lot of some people, I would say it's like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm in Hawaii. I think a lot of me being from here, it's like, yeah, I see this every day. I've grown up with it all. But there are some people that may come here for just Hawaii, but I hope they're coming here to play soccer. Yeah. But it kind of depends.
It takes some discipline to keep your focus in a place with so much to do.
Yeah, I would say for our team is we came in just ready to go. I would say preseason we all came in focused, we all came in ready. And once our record kind of started to go downhill, that's when kind of the separation started to happen a little bit. If guys weren't playing as much, there might have been a separation from the guys who were playing a lot. And that's what you see often in teams that aren't succeeding, is there is that division. And then they turn to things like surfing or going on hikes or so many other things the island has to offer, which is amazing. But I think next year, and what we're trying to build on now, is staying together and building for a successful season so we can stay together. Because it does losing tests everybody in every way possible, and when you lose, who you are comes out. And so what we've been trying to build this spring is not only become better soccer players, but become better men, become role models, be disciplined in school and in all areas of life too.
It's an admirable goal, and one that will make you a winner both on the field as well as off. When you back to the coaches, what sort of turnover are you seeing in the team? Do you have a lot of graduating, seniors or graduate students? I know with our extra year or so of eligibility, we've seen the new phenomenon of more grad students playing collegiate sports. But is it a big switch over to new players coming in next year, or do you have a lot of players returning?
I feel I always have a lot of people graduating.
Glad.
Like last year, I had 7 or 8, so I'm bringing 7 or 8 people. But next year, you guys are 13.
Wow.
And the year before, I had 7 more. I don't know. I always have so many people. I don't know.
Wow, that's a lot of.
I don't know how many people graduate. I don't know how we're doing it, but yes, so I lost 7, and I'm losing 13 next year.
Wow.
So every year feels like a little big change coming up.
I think it's too, we're the last COVID year.
Yeah.
So we're my year, I'm taking my 5th year next year. So we're the last year that can without redshirting or
They're the COVID kids.
We're the COVID kids.
Well, there's always a silver lining in everything, and maybe the extra year of eligibility for players that got robbed of a season or two during the COVID years is the silver lining in all of that. But all right, hey, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk Mehana and Cade with you guys about your plans, your goals, a little bit of your history in soccer and academia. But you are listening to Sharks Weekly. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we are back broadcasting live from the TSE Esports Arena here at Hawaii Pacific University at the Aloha Tower Marketplace. I am your host, Jeff Rich. We're talking men's and women's soccer here at HPU. Before we jump back into the conversation, though, I just want to give a quick shout-out and a big thank you to our amazing sponsors, Caswell Orthodontics. Caswell Orthodontics, we change your smile, you change the world. And also JN Auto. JN Group, serving our great community since 1961. Now this is living. Thank you to our sponsors. You make it possible for us to broadcast live every Thursday morning. But let's come back to the conversation here, and I wanted to jump in with our student athletes. So it's hard enough to do well in college academically, and when you've got the added stress of a Division II sport, I mean, it's got to be a lot of work and a lot of structure that you've got to bring into your life. So, I want to hear a little bit from you guys about, how do you maintain a balance in your life? And Cade, maybe you can kick us off when you're trying to excel on the field and be, the best teammate and the most impactful player that you can be. You've also got these demands academically, but it's got to take its toll, make it difficult to succeed at both.
Yeah, I would say balance is a funny word, because in the fall season when you're playing, balance doesn't really exist. Like, it seems like the majority of your life is soccer. You go to practice, you're thinking about practice, you're thinking about the games, you're thinking about how you're recovering, what you're eating. And it seems like for that August through November, your life is kind of dominated by soccer, but you love it, and that's why you do it. If you don't love it, it would probably be miserable. But it seems as if academics kind of takes a second place. I don't think I'm supposed to say that, but and then social life is third on the list, and it's almost non-existent in the fall. Your social life is with your team. You do everything with your team during season. In the spring, it's a little bit different. And you're able to, in Hawaii, you're able to go out, explore the island, but still it seems like the social life is with a team. And then academics, you kind of take your harder classes in the spring as well. So you have more of a balance between academic, athletic, social, and whatever else there is in the spring. But fall, I would say there's no balance.
No balance. And have you developed any sort of a system for yourself? Do you budget your time? Do you always study at these hours? But is there a structure that you've brought in to help you cope with keeping on top of everything you got going?
I mean, Sunday night, I usually make my calendar for the week, and with times of when I can do homework, when we have training, if I have time for social life, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I set a calendar a week before just to keep myself on track of things.
Okay.
So I don't get behind on homework and all that fun stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Mehana, you've got a bit of a support structure here. Does that make things easier for you, as opposed to if you were off thousands of miles away from home and not a lot of friends or family to support? But how do you go about, keeping ahead of everything and doing well, both in your soccer pursuits as well as academically?
I would say it's harder being at home because I just have family constantly wanting to do things, but that's normally for the weekend when I have time, if I have time. But they always are bugging me to go do things, and I have no time because I also have a waitress job, so it's like school, soccer, and my job, having to plan out. I do have to, on Sundays, I do plan out my whole week to make sure this is when I'm doing school, this is when I have to do my homework, and then I have to go straight to work after classes, and then I get home late and then have to do more homework.
Wow.
So it's
the work has got to be over the top. I mean, that's got to make it really, really hard.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so all right, tell us, what's your major, first of all? What did you study here?
I was bio, but this past semester I switched to chemistry.
Chemistry,
Yeah.
okay. And what are you tracking to do? What do you want to do?
I want to go to
here?
med school, hopefully.
Okay.
Might take a gap year first, though, because after 5 years of undergrad, it's just a bit much.
Yeah.
And then I have to go 4 years into med school, so I'll probably take a gap year, do some hours in the hospital, because playing soccer, my 5 years, I had no time to volunteer. I would just volunteer over the summer when I can. It's really, soccer just kind of takes over your life with school, and I also, being that I work, so I had really no time to get myself into the hospital, so that's also what my gap year is for.
Okay.
But
Wow. So, are you going to stay on the island for med school, or are you thinking, do you have anywhere in your sights?
I want to.
Medical?
I really want to stay at UH Jobs.
Okay.
I don't know if I can go away again. I just want to stay home already. But definitely for residency, I'll probably have to go away for a few years. But that's Not too bad.
Well, so you've lived your whole life on the island. So what's the longest trip you've taken off island? Have you ever lived in another place?
Well, I went to Oregon Tech for my freshman sophomore year.
2 years.
Yeah. I would say maybe a year and a half because I came home early.
So you didn't like it, it sounds like.
It was just in the middle of nowhere, and it's not like here, and I should have just stayed home.
Yeah.
But it was nice to kind of go and experience it and travel on the buses. I've never got to do that. We would travel 4 hours on the buses and home. I mean, it was cool. It was nice. I've never got to do that before. I mean, the longest drive here is half an hour. Drove half an hour here to get here from home. That's
very true. But the thing I'll say about HPU is I am amazed at the diversity in this institution and students from all over the world. And, I think about the defining experiences in my life, for example. I grew up in kind of a sheltered suburban neighborhood of Buffalo, New York, and I ended up going to college in New York City and starting my career there. And the exposure to people from all over the world had enormous formative impact on my life and changed my perspective about everything. And I think that's one of the advantages, whether you've grown up here in Hawaii and gone to HPU or gone off island. But at HPU, you have the special opportunity to meet people with different perspectives, different experiences. And I think that will serve everybody well in terms of understanding different people's points of view. So congratulations on your future career endeavors. And I imagine also staying here in Hawaii and practicing medicine would be obviously very important to this community because like a lot of neighborhood cities, there's a bit of a rural healthcare crisis in rural areas and city areas. It's hard to access healthcare, so that's an admirable goal. Okay, let's go back to you. So tell us a bit about your academic interests. First of all, what's your major? And moving on, what do you plan to do?
Yeah, so I'm getting my grad degree right now, my MBA.
So your undergrad major was what?
I got my undergrad major at Biola University in finance. Finance. Yeah, and so I came out here, and I had 2 years left of eligibility, and it matched up with the MBA program, so I'm like, perfect. I graduate in December after my final year, and I'm looking to either stay here or go back to Southern California, and kind of two options there. I either want to pursue coaching, soccer, or do some type of sales. So I'm not too sure yet. That's kind of why I wanted to continue getting educated, is because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. Yep. So the MBA just opens up a ton of doors. And yeah.
Well, it sounds like, you could probably do both things, right? Be a coach somewhere of a program and pursue a business career. When you think about sales, so business development, relationship development, is there any area, service, product lines that you've got interest in, or are you thinking just generally as a discipline, learning the art of sales and business development?
Yeah, so I would more want to go into business-to-business sales. Okay. More corporate. I have an internship actually in Southern California for a corporate insurance company this summer. So kind of just getting my feet wet a little bit with the industry, and just I'm excited because I get to figure out actually if it's something I do want to pursue. And I'm super young, so I'm just trying a ton of different things right now. And that's why I wanted to come out to Hawaii in the first place, is just try new things. Yeah. I feel like when I was in Southern California, I was doing the same thing for 3 years, and I was like, I just need something new. New experiences, new adventure. And so I'm excited about that, just getting a taste of a new type of industry.
Yeah. Well, you went to extreme new in coming out here to Hawaii from what most people's experiences are. When you think about careers in the corporate world, business development, sales, B2B sales in particular, it's an interesting pathway because it presents opportunities into so many different things. The visibility that people in that line of work have over the entire operation of an organization makes them great candidates for things like general managers, progressing all the way to presidents and all. So that's where I started my career in the business world, was in sales and business development. And it really helped me in so many areas that weren't just about my career. Building great relationships, networking, all things that become so critically important. But congratulations on pursuit of the MBA. And I imagine the COVID years had something to do with getting a little extra time, as we said, also for you too, right?
Yeah, I was a COVID kid as well. And so at the time I was like, dang, this sucks. Like, we have a 6-game season at Biola, and now I get a full new season. So super stoked on that.
Yeah. So more questions for Cade and Mehana, real quick, and then we're going to take a quick commercial break. Do you guys surf at all? Do you have a recreational Hawaii sort of base sport that you picked up or liked since you've been out here?
I would say no. I mean, I born and raised here. Surfed when I was like a kid.
But really? That just never appealed past that, huh?
My brother, yes.
Okay.
My brother surfed when he was younger and till like maybe middle school. But sports just took over our life in Hawaii, so.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I would say
on the
similar with that. Sports kind of takes over my life right now, and so my legs are always just like dead. And I'm like, I don't want to go surf. I just want to go lay out. I've been surfing a few times here with some teammates, and then I just go and get absolutely thrashed by some waves, and I'm like, I'm never doing this again. And then like 2 months later, I'm like, all right, I'll try it again. And the same thing.
I'm right there with you. I have too much respect for the power of water to go out there. So, all right, we're going to take our last commercial break here of the hour. You're listening to Sharks Weekly. I'm your host, Jeff Rich, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we're back on Sharks Weekly. And just a reminder that you can watch all the fun happenings here in studio while we record on Thursday morning. If you go to the Hawaii Sports Radio Network's YouTube channel, you can see a recording of our in-studio conversation. And go back and check out some of the archived conversations that we've had. But let's come back to our conversation about HPU men's and women's soccer. So I want to talk about the recruiting class and what are the thoughts as we head into next year. So Audrey, maybe we could start with you. What kind of a year? I know it makes it easier to connect with prospective student athletes through the transfer portal now than it certainly was in prior years. But has that been valuable for you?
Yes, with the transfers, sometimes can be a little hit or miss. So I think we always try to focus on being very strong freshmen, and then if we can pick up a good transfer, we go with that as well.
Okay.
So from the 7 players that left, we have 4 freshmen coming in, and then we have 3 transfers that we picked up.
Okay.
So we always try to have a balance of like not too many of each, right?
And some scorers coming in, as you were saying earlier.
Should be good. Should feel better that the 7 that the 7 that are coming should make the program stronger, hopefully. So that's the goal.
Okay, so we got a lot to look forward to and a high bar that's set for next year. Now, I forget, are you graduating this year or are you coming back for one more year?
One more year.
One more year, okay. So you feeling good about the chemistry?
Yeah, I think the spring it felt really good. It felt like we're ready for fall, ready for some redemption, a little revenge on all those tied games we should have won, and maybe some games that shouldn't have ended the way that it did.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you've got some strong motivators at play, it sounds like, right? Chris, tell us a bit about, how'd you guys do in terms of recruiting and what you're thinking for next year. How's everything looking?
Yeah, we're looking good. I'm pretty happy with the players that we've signed already, and we've had a couple local kids out at our trainings. They get to come out and train one time. We had a really good player that was out yesterday that we feel that would really help our program, and being local, I think that only helps our program as well.
You have students coming from all points across the globe?
Yeah, we have a couple of transfers coming in. We're looking at there's a lot of players with just 1 year. We don't necessarily want to bring in a lot of players with just 1 year because we want to build the culture of our program. But we're looking at a couple of guys from Cal Berkeley coming in, for instance, that would be an instant impact and culturally be very good for our program as well.
Nice. And Joshua, when you look at the season next year, what gets you excited? You see some strengths and weaknesses as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think since I've been here and the film I've watched and the games I've been able to watch since I've been here, it's from a personal perspective, I believe that everything that we need to improve on, I kind of know the solution already, and I've spoke to Fish and he's kind of like, Oh, that's what I've been wanting to see, but I just not been able to visually kind of show it to the boys or, for example, teach it. And so we've been on a same page, we're heading in the same direction, and we know our areas of weakness, but we also know how to fix that now and how we can make that our strengths. And that's, of course, if you can make your weaknesses your strengths, you're only going to have a stronger season. We're just focusing on the process right now, making sure we get that right, and the result will take care of itself.
Excellent. Well, we are excited and a lot to look forward to for next year. You were saying during the break that they're instituting playoffs for the first time next year, right? So there'll be a Pac-West tournament. I think you said the top 4 teams will qualify. Yep. So what does that do from a motivation standpoint? I'm kind of surprised. I didn't realize they didn't have a playoffs before this, but was that just having enough teams in the Pac-West to compete?
I think it was maybe a financial tough decision to, because of the traveling between NorCal, SoCal, Hawaii.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they just went down to 4 teams, but that's also at least a great opportunity for the kids, and everybody now is looking like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Because with the so-called teams, it's getting a little bit of tough competition. So when you have like 12 teams and just one, it's going to make it the number 1. That's what happened with Cade was saying. As soon as you get some results bad in the season, and you know you're not going to be the number 1, people deflate. But the playoff always gives the opportunities to people that made mistakes to come back and catch that 3rd or 4th spot, right?
Yeah.
So and then you can end up winning the whole thing, right? So it gives a lot of hope and positive energy to the entire competition, I would think.
Yeah. Is that a rallying point for the team? First year, let's be the first team to win the Pac-West title. Is that a goal you're setting?
I would hope so. Yeah. It's something that, like you said, I've been here for a long time, and it's something us Pac-West coaches have been fighting for a long time. So now that it's coming to fruition is very exciting.
Nice. So
now I have a meeting to go decide where that playoff is going to be.
Very nice. And it's right after this show, was it, or a little bit?
I got a Pac-West meeting at 10 a.m.
There you go. That's coming up soon. Did the men's and women's teams, do you guys do things together? Is there commingling, community service or team building activities that you guys do together, or do the programs kind of stay separately?
We did some community service out at YPO soccer field, I think a week or 2 ago. Picking some sort of weeds on the stadium field. So that was something we did together. For the most part, I don't think our teams commingle a lot. I think our freshman class does quite a bit because they live here. But for the most part, I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
No? Pretty accurate,
I feel like we each do like our own team bondings, like they do theirs and then we do ours.
What do you guys do? So what do the women do when you guys want to, get closer to each other, build some team chemistry?
Well, normally we do a lot in the spring. Sorry. We do a lot in the spring. We'll go on like hikes, or we'll do like coming up we have a beach cleanup, like just to kind of like give back but also like be together.
Okay. Important activities. What about the guys?
The guys like to just play as soccer as much as we can. We'll play.
So that's your off the field team building, is to go get a pickup game.
Keep playing.
Yeah. Is that allowed, Coach, or does that break rules?
They can do whatever they want on their own free time.
So we'll get together and play. Do you know what futsal is?
No.
It's like a indoor soccer. We play on a basketball court in Chinatown, but you play with an indoor soccer ball, and you play the lines. It's a type of indoor soccer, basically, but we get together and play that every week. We did Cocoa Head as a team a few weeks ago, or we'll go to the beach or go out to eat or something like that. But a lot of it is just getting together Tuesdays, Saturdays, playing more soccer with each other.
Nice. Does anybody play hacky sack anymore? Is that a thing? That was big when I was in high school. Is that even around? Does anybody know it?
I haven't seen a hacky sack in a while.
Well, I would think soccer players would be real good at that, right? At least.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's exciting that you guys are excited about next year. I know we are at the university, and really building that culture of excellence and continuing to recruit, fantastic student athletes that excel both in the classroom and at their sport. It's something that we're proud of here at the university, and I know we take our hats off to you guys as coaches for making that happen every year. As you think about the end of this year, we got 3 weeks or so left in the academic year. What's the highlight of the year for each of you? Is there one thing, whether it's playing soccer or off, that really stood out this year for you? Cade, maybe you want to go first?
Yeah, I would say the highlight of my entire year was playing against my former school, Biola. I was able to score against them, which was an amazing
Nice.
feeling. We ended up tying, which kind of goes back to the theme today.
At the start, yeah.
We did blow a lead, which, again, not fun. But I would say just being able to experience that, playing against them, scoring against them, was a
Very
highlight for
nice.
sure.
Mehana, what's your best memory of the year?
I would say, I know we always talk about it, but our last game we tied in the last 17 seconds, and it was our senior night, and everyone was really happy and excited. We had a rough year, and it was kind of even though we tied, it was a nice way to end the whole little rough of a season.
Yep.
But
Wow. Well, that's apropos. A 17-second goal to tie it up, but no way to play and win at the end, right? Overtime. So we're back to where we started. All right. Well, I know we're out of time, but I want to thank everybody from HPU Men's and Women's Soccer. You guys rock. We're excited about next year, and we'll talk to you as we get rolling again with next year's season. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Jeff Rich. You've been with Sharks Weekly, and we'll talk to you next Thursday.